What's up, everybody? Here we are. We are back for another week of NFL Pick'ems. It's week 5. We've been red hot on the season. Hopefully you guys have been following along, following the picks. If you're just finding this channel, definitely get on board and follow these picks because we've been doing really good. Last week we went 12-3. We locked in that Patriots pick. As you can see, we were kind of up in the air about it during the video last week. Obviously, 12-3 only adds up to 15 games. There was 16 last week. Packers and Cowboys tied. I don't even want to talk about it. Miserable game for the Packers. Our secondary got ripped apart. We are wearing the Micah Parsons jersey this week. So anyways, let's jump into the picks. Thursday Night Football, we got the 49ers going on the road to play the Rams. Starting on the Rams side of the ball, their offense looks really, really good. Matthew Stafford is red hot. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And if you didn't think so with Puka Nacua, if you didn't think he was already one of the best receivers in the league, he is cementing himself as one so far this season. 49ers pass defense has been pretty good so far this season, only allowing 165 yards through the air. Mind you, they've played the Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, and Jaguars, and outside of the Seahawks, I don't think any of those passing games are overly great, at least not thus far on the season, especially just volume-wise. On the 49ers side of offense, they are completely injury-riddled. No Brock Purdy, no Pearsall, no Juwan Jennings. The offense is going to be Mac Jones and Christian McCaffrey. Behind those receivers that are out, they've got Kendrick Bourne, Demarcus Robinson, Sky Moore, MVS. And honestly, I just don't think this 49ers injury-riddled offense is going to be able to keep up with the red-hot Rams offense this week. So we will be picking the Rams. Next up, we got the Vikings on the road against the Browns in London. Storyline here, Dillon Gabriel taking over the starting job for Cleveland this week. It's kind of strange to me that they're going to send him out there in an international game against a strong defense for his very first game. Obviously, they've got more confidence in him than Flacco at this point, but the Browns just continue to make strange decisions. That's kind of, sorry if you're a Browns fan, that's kind of the storyline of that franchise. Browns are an absolute mess on offense so far. Their offensive line has struggled greatly to pass protect. They've given up the most pressures in the league so far with 77 pressures. That's 19.25 per game. Flacco's had 160 pass attempts. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 from Dillon Gabriel as well so far this season. But that means he's under pressure on about 48% of Flacco's pass attempts. Not a recipe for success. Browns running the ball with Judkins has looked pretty good so far this season. I think that's more Judkins than that offensive line. I just don't have a ton of faith in that Browns offensive line. Browns are going to struggle mightily pass protecting this week against the Brian Flores great pass rush defense with creative blitz packages, talented players on that side of the ball. It's going to be tough for Dillon Gabriel and that Browns offensive line this week. If the Browns want any chance, they're going to have to lean on the run game and play strong defense, which I think they're going to play good defense this week. The storyline for the Vikings is 3 of 5 of their starting offensive linemen are out. Brian O'Neill, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, all going down with injuries and won't be playing this week against a elite Browns pass rush. So that's going to be tough for the Vikings offensively as well. It's going to be difficult for Jordan Mason to run the ball. Carson Wentz isn't going to have very much time. Going to be an ugly defensive game, but ultimately I got more faith in the Vikings coaching staff, even their offense without those offensive line. I just got the Vikings in this one with more confidence than I have in the Browns, but ultimately I think this could be a really close game, and if you need to steal one on the field, I think this could be a sneaky one to pick with the Browns. I'm going with the Vikings in this one. Next up, we got the Raiders on the road going to Indianapolis to play the Colts. Starting with the Raiders, Geno Smith has struggled mightily so far this season. He's trying to be a flamethrower, and he's absolutely not. He's got 7 interceptions so far this season. He goes from one really good game to one really bad game. He's been incredibly inconsistent thus far. The Raiders' offensive line has been really bad. They're not giving him much time to throw the ball. They've been pretty bad in the run game as well. Genty finally had his breakout game last week. I think he was like just over 120 yards. I don't have the stat right in front of me. but I think he was like 120 or so, maybe a little bit more than that. Mind you, he had a 64-yard touchdown run, so that kind of changes his efficiency numbers quite a bit if you take that out. He's down to just 3.7 yards per carry, which isn't all that great. I think the Raiders are going to have a hard time with that offensive line this week. The Colts should have won that game last week against the Rams. That A.D. Mitchell fumble was absolutely tragic. Sure glad I don't have him in fantasy football. You probably wouldn't be starting him anyways, but I'm sure glad I don't have him on my team. Colts pass coverage really struggled last week against the Rams, could be an area where the Raiders could exploit that this week. Although I just have the Colts winning the trench battle this week, both offensively and defensively. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a big game. I think the Colts are going to dominate the Raiders and get it done in this one. Next up, we got the Giants going on the road to play the Saints. Jackson Dart looked great last week. Giants got a win. Their defense looked really, really good. The tough thing for the Giants is that Malik Neighbors' injury. He's done for the year with the torn ACL. No matter if he's on your team or not, you just hate to see stars go down with big injuries like that. Hope he heals up fast and is back next year and can just jump right back into the elite production he's had so far in this career. And ultimately, the Giants season is over. No Malik Neighbors. There's hardly anybody in that receiving room behind him. They've got Wan'Dale Robinson, Slayton, Hyatt, but ultimately I just don't have a ton of faith in any of those guys without Neighbors taking the attention away from them. Scadaboo's looked great in the run game so far this year, especially with him and Dart out there running the ball together. I think they've got a good thing going there running the ball. And the Giants defense looked really good against the Chargers last week. 2 interceptions. One of them was that Dexter Lawrence interception at the line of scrimmage. The big boy picks. We love to see the big boys get interceptions. That was cool to watch last week. And the Giants defense looked really great. Other than that mistake with that Quentin Johnston touchdown at the end of the first half, they looked really solid last week. And I think they're going to carry that over this week, playing against a Saints team that has looked competitive at times, but has just really struggled overall. Especially offensively, the Saints really don't have a whole lot going for them. Last week, Kendre Miller got more involved, which I think is a good thing. I do think they can do more of a 1A, 1B thing in that backfield, at least running the ball. However, Kamara needs to be much more involved in the receiving game. He hasn't been overly involved so far this season, so if they want to have success, they need to get him involved in the receiving game. Ultimately, I just have more faith in the Giants' defense than any unit on the field this week. I do have the Giants going on the road, getting the upset against the Saints. Not really sure why the Saints are favored in this one. I get that they're at home. I get that Neighbors just went down, but ultimately, I think the Giants are going to win this game. Next up, we've got the Cowboys going on the road to play the Jets. And let me just say, the Cowboys surprised me last week. I thought their offense was really going to struggle without CeeDee Lamb. I thought we were going to be able to get good pressure on them with our great defensive line and pass rush that we've had so far this season. But ultimately, Dak Prescott's been playing incredible so far this season. He's the second best PFF graded passer so far in the league this season. He's been doing really good, and he's an elite quarterback whether you like him or not. The matchup to watch this week is going to be George Pickens versus Sauce Gardner. I do think that Sauce can shut him down pretty good this week, but ultimately, the other guys in that Jets secondary just really aren't that good. The Cowboys are going to get open receivers. Tolbert, Ferguson, Turpin, I don't think any of them are all that great, but someone's going to be open, and Dak's going to be able to hit them on open passes. On the Jets side of the ball, especially offensively, they've had success running the ball thus far. Justin Fields, Breece Hall, they've done pretty well running the ball when they're out there together, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot with fumbles and critical penalties. And ultimately, that's what happens with a young, inexperienced team. And I think that same thing is going to happen again this week. I've got the Cowboys winning this game. I think they can win it pretty soundly because of Jets' mistakes this week. Next up, we got the Broncos going on the road to play Philly. The Eagles are 4-0 this season. I don't think they've looked overly great, but there's no pictures in the win column. So ultimately, they're a 4-0 team, and the fact that they haven't looked all that great should scare the rest of the NFL. If they can put it together with that secondary, if their passing game can start to figure it out a little bit, this Eagles team is going to be even more dangerous than it already is. On the defensive side of the ball for the Broncos, their secondary is really good on paper, but it hasn't been grading out so well this season. Surtain is still an animal. He's probably going to be matched up with A.J. Brown this week. So as much as A.J. Brown wants to complain on Twitter or Instagram or whatever about not getting involved, I don't think that's really going to change this week with the matchup against Surtain. Broncos pass rush is elite. The tough thing is they're going up against elite offensive line this week. Bo Nix has been really inconsistent thus far. He had a good week last week against the Bengals, but I think the Bengals defense is just really bad. So I attribute that more to poor defense from Cincinnati more than success out of Bo Nix, but he is, improving. At least last week he was improving. But ultimately, the Bo Nix inconsistencies are why I will be picking the Eagles this week. They win close games. They're the better team. They looked better so far this season. I think the Eagles are going to get it done at home. Next up, we got the Dolphins going on the road to Carolina to play the Panthers. And obviously, as we all saw, that Tyreek Hill gruesome knee injury sucks. It really does. No matter if you like a guy or if you don't, you hate to see injuries like that. Hopefully he can heal up, come back, and be the same Tyreek Hill he was before, but he is getting older. Who knows how he's going to recover from that. Anyways, let's dive into this game. With Tyreek Hill out, you're going to need Waddle to step into that role. I think he can do a pretty good job of that. But I do really expect Malik Washington and Darren Waller to step up in the passing game. Washington's looked great when he's gotten involved so far this season. Waller had 2 touchdowns last week, so I expect both those guys to take a jump here now that Tyreek Hill is out. Additionally, on the offensive side of the ball, I think Achane's going to need to be really more involved as the season goes on. He's been really great so far this season, especially running outside the tackles has been a great strength for the Dolphins. I think they need to get him outside the tackles, Ollie Gordon inside the tackles, finding opportunities to get Achane the ball in space, whether that's screen plays, splitting him out wide, runs outside the tackle. And the good thing for the Dolphins is that's the biggest weakness for the Panthers defensively is defending the run outside of the tackles. 2 very bad defenses here. Carolina's allowed more than 26 points in 3 out of 4 of their games this season. On the offensive side of the ball for Carolina, breaking news, Chuba Hubbard hasn't practiced now Wednesday or Thursday. He's got that calf injury that he played through last week, although it sounds like it's a little bit worse. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses this game, and the Panthers really need to rely on the run to make it easier for Bryce Young. He's just not a flamethrower. He's not someone who can go out and throw the ball 35, 40 times a game and win football games. So ultimately, I do have the Dolphins winning this game, whether Hubbard plays or he doesn't. I just think that they're the better football team. Even without Tyreek Hill, I think the Dolphins offense is better than the Panthers offense, and both these defenses just suck. So the Dolphins are going to win this game on the road. Next up, we've got the Texans going on the road to Baltimore to play the Ravens, and both of these teams have really struggled so far. Texans are 1-3. They got their first win last week against the Titans. Ravens also 1-3. If you would have said these two teams are 1-3 at the beginning of the year, I think people would have told you you're crazy. But here we are. It's week 5. They're both 1-3. They're both reeling. Texans offense has really struggled. Ravens defense has really struggled. Who's going to have the better week? One of them is going to have to step up. And ultimately, it's going to be tough for the Ravens to step up with all the injuries that they have. On the offensive side, Lamar Jackson is out. Ronnie Staley is out. On the defensive side, Roquan Smith, Kyle Van Noy, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins. That's 4 really good defensive starters for a Ravens defense that has already struggled. So I don't expect the Ravens defense to have much success this week. In the NFL, it's next man up mentality. Guys get hurt, someone has to step up. But at the end of the day, for a Ravens team that's reeling, that's going to be really tough. Texans started to get it going last week in the run game with Woody Marks. He looked a lot more explosive than Nick Chubb. He saw the holes well. And I think the Texans need to continue to stay balanced for them to have a little more success with that terrible offensive line, especially with their bad pass protection. If CJ Stroud's going to have a good game, they're going to need to be able to run the ball well. And I do have the Texans winning the game this week on the road against Baltimore. Funny enough, they are a Vegas favorite, but a public underdog. So a really good opportunity to pick the Texans this week, no matter what we think. Vegas knows more than we do, and they're the favorite for Vegas and the public underdog. So it's a really good opportunity to take the Texans. Nonetheless, I think they're going to win this game, so we're riding with the Texans. Next up, we got the Bucs going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. And the tough thing for the Bucs has just been injuries so far this season. No Mike Evans this upcoming week. It looks like Bucky Irving won't play also. If he does play, he's going to be really limited. Kind of a funky situation there. He played the entire game last week, although it was reported that he suffered an injury about halfway through. He's been seen with a walking boot and crutches during the week this week, so I don't expect him to play. Godwin did come back last week and played basically the entire game. He got 10 targets. He was looking better than I think most of us expected, so that's a bright spot for the Bucs. But those injuries are going to be really tough to overcome. Seattle's looked really great. I'm the first one who's going to be willing to admit I was wrong about Darnold. I didn't expect him to have a good season. I thought Seattle was going to struggle with Sam Darnold under center. Last year I said that Darnold was only good because he had Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, a pretty good run game, and obviously an elite defense from Minnesota. But Seattle's building a similar thing with their team. They've been able to run the ball a little better over the last couple of weeks with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. JSN has been having a huge season, and their defense looks pretty good at the same time. So it's a good opportunity for Sam Darnold to step in, to play good, safe quarterback play. And ultimately, I just have the Seahawks winning this game because mostly the injuries on the Bucs side of the ball. Seattle loves to throw the ball over the middle. That's the biggest weakness for that Bucs defense. So I think Seattle keeps the winning streak going and gets another one this week. Next up, we've got the Titans going on the road to Arizona to play the Cardinals. And starting with the Titans, they've just really struggled so far this season. 0-4. They might have the worst offensive line in the NFL. Cam Ward has really struggled. I think that's largely due to the offensive line being really bad, the run game not being overly efficient, and Calvin Ridley playing very poorly. They've got some good names on that offensive line, but ultimately names need to perform, and they haven't been performing so far this season. The Cardinals' defensive line is pretty dang good, and they're going to match up well against a struggling Titans offensive line. On the Cardinals' offensive side of the ball, Trey Benson is now on IR, so you've got Amari DiMercado and Michael Carter in at running back. Cardinals need to be a balanced football team to have success offensively. Kyler Murray is just not someone who's going to sit back in the pocket and rip teams apart, especially with how bad that passing offense looks. They just are not in rhythm. They're throwing passes to areas where guys aren't even. MHJ and Kyler specifically look completely out of rhythm. MHJ running different routes than Kyler thinks he's going to. Pass that hits him in the hands that he bobbles and just hands to the defense. MHJ stopping his routes and the interception just going straight to the defense. So ultimately, the Cardinals' passing game doesn't inspire confidence this far in the season. But ultimately, I just don't have any faith in the Titans. Until they put a win down, until they start to inspire a little bit of confidence, it's going to be really hard to pick them. So we're going with the Cardinals this week. Next up, we got the Commanders going on the road to LA to play the Chargers. And if you checked the pinned comments for our video last week, we were just trying to update you with injuries. We said if JD and Terry don't play, we were definitely picking the Falcons because the Falcons would be able to load the box, send pressure, probably play a lot of one high safety and keep things contained. And that's exactly what happened. It looks like Daniels will play this week, but it looks like Terry McLaurin won't, as of right now at least. I think that's going to be kind of the same equation. They're not going to have a great deep threat. Chargers are going to be able to load the box a little bit better. They're going to have to try to run the ball against a pretty good defense, and I think the Commanders are going to really struggle offensively in this game. It's going to be tighter windows, loaded boxes. It's going to be tough for them. For the Chargers, Alt went down last week. That's a huge hit. Him and Slater were one of the best, if not the best, tackle duo in the NFL going into the season, and now neither one of them are out there. So that makes it pretty tough for the Chargers. Hampton still had a lot of success running the ball last week when Alt went down, although I don't know if that's going to continue, especially against a Commanders defensive line that's been pretty good so far this season. Herbert didn't look so good last week, throwing 2 interceptions. The Giants really confused him, threw some interesting schemes at him, and made his job hard. But I do expect Herbert to bounce back this week and have a good game passing the football against a Commanders secondary that has been pretty inconsistent at times this season. So we've got the Chargers getting the home win in this one. Next up, we've got the Patriots going on the road to play the Bills. Starting with the Bills, they've looked phenomenal thus far this season. They're 4-0. They've been playing really, really good. And outside of the Ravens, who I still think are a good football team, much better in week 1 than they are now, the Bills haven't played much competition. They've let some bad teams hang around with the Saints and the Dolphins, but ultimately the Bills are a complete team. They're a great team, and they're showing it so far this season. Patriots, on the other hand, they're inconsistent, they're young, they're making mistakes that inexperienced young teams make, and that's going to be the reason why they just can't keep up with the Bills this week. They're going to make mistakes, and at the end of the day, the Bills team is just better than the Patriots front to back, and the Bills are going to win this one. Now the last matchup this week, Monday Night Football, Chiefs at the Jaguars. And let me just say this, if you didn't watch the picks video from last week, we did pick the Jaguars to upset the 49ers, and that was a great one. We were able to steal one on pretty much the entire field. They just matched up really well against the Niners, and it was a great pick. We had the Jags in that one. So far on the Jags, we've been 4-0 this year. We had them losing to the Bengals, winning the other 3 games. And man, do I want to pick the Jags again this week. I'm going to get into my pick here in just a second, but the Jags are another big public underdog this week, so it's another good chance to steal one on the field if you need one. But let's start talking about this game. Jaguars' defense has been really good so far this season. They've held opponents to under 18 points per game, largely to do with their takeaways. They've had 13 on the season so far. They only had 9 the entire year last year. So that's a massive improvement from last season. The Jags are really, really strong across the middle. If you watched that video last week, we said that the 49ers love to attack the middle of the field, and that's where the Jaguars' defense has their strength. We said Devin Lloyd's going to cause problems. Oluwakan's going to cause problems. And Devin Lloyd had 2 picks last week. So we definitely hit on that one. And that's where the Chiefs also like to attack. They like to go across the middle. Now, Xavier Worthy came back last week. He had over 100 scrimmage yards, but what he does more than what he does on the stat sheet is he opens up defenses with that potential deep threat. Jaguars are going to have to respect that. They're probably going to have to play a lot of 2 high safeties against the Chiefs, and that's going to open things up a little bit over the middle, whereas the 49ers weren't able to do that so much last week. Chiefs are going to be really dangerous when Rashee Rice comes back, but anyways, he's not going to be back till week 7. Jaguars offensively, Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked real great so far this season, but that offense is still doing pretty good, largely to do with that offensive line. Trevor Lawrence wasn't hit once last week, and he didn't throw any interceptions. So obviously, that's kind of a common denominator for Trevor Lawrence, is he needs to be able to sit back there and evaluate defenses. You know, when he played at Clemson, he had a really, really talented team with him, offensive line, the weapons he had, the defense, it was all really good. And he hasn't had that for the Jaguars. He struggles under pressure. They protected him well last week, and he looked a lot better than he has so far this season. ETN has the most yards before contact of any running back in the NFL so far this season, and that's largely due to Liam Cohen, that new scheme, and that offensive line for the Jaguars. They've been really, really good power rushing, those zone run schemes, they've been really solid with that. And the Chiefs have been pretty poor against the run game this week. So all in all, these things add up to a pretty good matchup for the Jaguars this week, with defending well across the middle, being able to run the ball against a team that's struggled defensively against the run. But ultimately, we will be picking the Chiefs. I want to pick the Jaguars because it's another chance to steal one, but ultimately I got more faith in the Chiefs winning this one. Patrick Mahomes is the X factor. He's so much better than Trevor Lawrence. He's going to go out there and prove it on Sunday. It's not like he really has to prove it, but he's going to show it on Sunday. And ultimately, I just got more faith in this Chiefs team. Patrick Mahomes, worthy, healthy, and the Chiefs are going to get it done on Monday. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the picks. If you got any thoughts on them, drop them in the comments. If you got any disagreeing opinions or agreeing opinions, whatever you got, I'd love to hear them. Hopefully you've been following along with the picks so far this season. You'd be doing really good in your pick'em group, so jump on board. Let me know what you think in the comments, and good luck this week.